President Cyril Ramaphosa's economic reform engine, Operation Vulindlela, has been quietly tearing up red tape, bulldozing legacy bottlenecks, and opening doors that were bolted shut for decades, and the story is far bigger, bolder, and more consequential than anything you'll see in a 3-minute news clip. It began in late 2020 as a joint initiative between the Presidency and National Treasury to fast-track structural reforms too complex or politically thorny for ordinary departmental channels, but today, almost 5 years later, it has morphed into a full-blown war room staffed by policy nerds, engineers, economists, and data scientists who wake up each morning to one question: what is the single biggest constraint on growth we can smash today? The operation's name, Zulu for Open the Way, isn't just branding. It's a mission statement, and its reach now spans energy, logistics, water, broadband, visa policy, and the investment climate itself. Picture the energy sector first, because without reliable power nothing else matters. By scrapping the archaic 1 megawatt licensing cap for private generation and raising it first to 100 megawatts and then removing it entirely, Operation Vulindlela flung open the gate for mines, malls, and municipalities to build their own solar, wind, and gas plants. The grid queue exploded almost overnight. More than 140 gigawatts of private sector projects now sit in various stages of registration, dwarfing Eskom's aging coal fleet. Add to that a beefed-up National Energy Crisis Committee and the fast-tracked unbundling of Eskom into separate generation, transmission, and distribution entities, and you start to see the outlines of a real electricity market where competition, not monopoly, keeps the lights on. When the first tranche of independent grid capacity auctions went live, investors oversubscribed them 3 times. Renewable energy developers from Scandinavia to Singapore are scouting sites in the Northern Cape, Northern Free State, and even former mining belts desperate for a second economic life. And it isn't just about electrons. Manufacturing plants for solar panels and wind turbine towers are springing up near Coega and Saldonia, promising thousands of industrial jobs that don't vanish when the last megawatt is installed. Look next at transport and logistics, where South Africa's ports and railways once symbolized continental dominance but recently sank to near bottom of global rankings. Operation Vulindlela forced Transnet to open its rail lines to private operators under transparent, published tariffs, a revolutionary step in a country where freight paths were treated like trade secrets. Within months, mining giants signed take-or-pay contracts to run their own locomotives, slashing derailment backlogs and freeing Transnet Freight Rail to focus on core corridors. Durban Port, infamously clogged with container ships waiting up to 3 weeks to berth, is now leasing its Pier 2 container terminal to an international consortium under a 25-year concession with performance penalties if cranes sit idle for more than 8 minutes between lifts. Early data shows vessel turnaround improving by double-digit percentages, and exporters of citrus, avocados, and auto parts are finally meeting European shipping windows once considered impossible. Throw in the resurrection of the National Ports Authority as an independent landlord with its own CFO and a mandate to reinvest every cent of port dues into dredging and equipment, and you have the makings of a logistics reboot that could shave entire percentage points off the cost of doing business. Water may be the next frontier, and Operation Vulindlela is already boring into a regulatory maze that left townships dry while billions of cubic meters leaked away each year. Average waiting time for a water use license has collapsed from more than 300 days to under 90, and digital dashboards now display every pending application in real time, naming and shaming officials who drag their heels. Ramaphosa's team is also piloting a model where big urban metros shoulder maintenance for bulk pipelines feeding smaller municipalities. In return, they receive guaranteed abstraction quotas that let them plan megaprojects without the usual bureaucratic roulette. Private capital is pouring into desalination and water reuse plants along the Garden Route and in Richards Bay, confident at last that long-term offtake agreements won't evaporate in political fog. Even the invisible wires of the digital economy are getting rewired. After 15 years of courtroom gymnastics and bureaucratic squabbling, South Africa finally auctioned high-demand 5G spectrum, injecting billions into state coffers and freeing mobile operators to roll out lightning-fast networks from downtown Joburg to the furthest Platland. In parallel, Vulindlela forced ICOSA and the Department of Communications to slash application times for fiber trench permits, leading to an explosion of last-mile internet in townships where speeds once crawled beneath a single megabit. The knock-on effects ripple into e-commerce jobs, online education, and fintech inclusion for the previously unbanked. It's the kind of systemic upgrade that doesn't always make front-page news, but you feel it every time a rural entrepreneur swipes a customer's card on a cheap wireless terminal and gets paid instantly. None of this happens in a vacuum, and that's why Operation Vulindlela leverages data like an investment bank tracks markets. Weekly dashboards land on Ramaphosa's desk showing how many gigawatts have moved from concept to construction, how many road and rail bottlenecks have cleared, and which departments are drifting off schedule. Ministers tremble at those heat maps. They know a sea of red could cost them a job reshuffle. Civil society watchdogs can log into a public portal and see the same numbers, turning transparency into a crowdsourced accountability mechanism. And when inertia strikes, the operation doesn't just nag, it sends in deployment teams of policy technologists to rewrite regulations line by line. That's how the long-awaited critical skills visa list finally got updated, allowing tech firms to hire global talent on a 48-hour fast track instead of a 12-month bureaucratic odyssey. Suddenly, the fintech corridors of Cape Town and Stellenbosch buzz with coders from Lagos, Warsaw, and Bangalore, cross-pollinating ideas with South Africa's own rising talent. Yet every reform wins enemies. Municipalities losing monopoly electricity customers mutter about lost revenue. Port unions fear private concessions will slash jobs. Some ANC factions whisper that Vulindlela's technocrats answer more to capital markets than to branch meetings. Ramaphosa, ever the negotiator, has met those arguments with a simple line: the cost of inertia is collapse. He reminds